Hello everybody, and today we are doing What If Deku had a goat quirk. As bad as an idea as this sounds, you guys will be surprised. It has a story, and it'll definitely come into the story. By the way, I'll set up some ground rules before we do the video. So, Inko is a tad bit little poor and abusive towards Izuku because we'll say Azuka because the 5 images I found were more feminish. So that's what we'll do. And Izuka will be no, I'll leave that for the video. Okay, so on to this very good video. Please get into the recommended. I need subscribers, guys. 28 away from 1,000.
This is the intro music for the good intro, so I don't get copyright struck.
Okay, so after you guys have bled your ears to death after 10,000 hours of that great intro, on to the video. So Izuka, she was born a very happy child until, Inko was let go by her boss. And then Hisashi then had to move to America. Inko ended up getting very territorial. Izuka, instead of she didn't get breakfast anymore. She was just a tad bit neglected. And she was hit usually every time Inko was rejected from a job. Usually she'd take her anger out on Izuka. And Izuka tried to defend herself, but being only 3 or 4 years old, they can't really do anything. But when Izuka turned 4, Inko hoped that they'd get a flashy quirk. They got a goat/sheep quirk. We'll say it's a mix. Guys, don't worry. It's actually kind of cool. Anyway, when Inko finds this out, she tells the doctor, yeah, that's okay. As when they get home, Inko immediately tries to throw a punch at Izuka, but Izuka makes a massive ball of wool in front of her face, and it completely absorbs the power. And Inko's like, you little brat, as she starts kicking Izuka. And that went on for about 4 years. But when Izuka was 8, she went to school for a while. And she after school, guys, she would go to daycare. So, one day, when Izuka was 8, Inko got a job. But it was not a good one. She got a minimum wage job, but at least they were getting a little money now. Izuka was also auctioned up on the black market by Inko Midoriya. And Inko didn't like Izuka, and Izuka was listed for about $85,000 a year. So, people actually bid on Izuka. And since they saw how cute that she looked, Izuka ended up getting to $1.5 million. $1.5 million a year. Inko, obviously, said yes. So one day, when Izuka was walking home, Inko came up to her like, well, hey, honey. As Izuka's like, what is it, Mom? As Inko's like, well, mistake. Men will come tomorrow to pick you up to your new family. Me, though, I'll be receiving $1.5 million a year from you. Thank you for saving my life. You are a true hero, Izuka. But I'm sorry for the way I treated you. But, lots of things happened. Well, Izuka, I guess this will be the last time we talk, considering how we usually have our days. Well, goodbye, kiddo. So the next day comes and they don't talk, but once again, when late at night, Izuka's returning from daycare, she's suddenly grabbed by two men and put in a van. And she's not tied up or anything. They just put her into the van. Izuka actually complied with it because she really didn't like Inko, but she was very kind to her. Too kind. So, yeah. Izuka, at this time, was... Well, yeah, her quirk was quite strong because sometimes she'd try and fight back against Inko. And that did quite good and trained her quirk up. So the wool she summoned was now like an entire thing of wool from a sheep. Just pops. And her little horns on her head were quite strong by now. But she was sold to a family that owned what they like to call a coliseum. But it's not what you're thinking, for it was in the underground. It was a battle royale for whoever lasted the longest would earn some money from the owners. But since Izuka was from the family, Izuka hoped to get back the money with her two brothers, but the parents still didn't pay any attention to Izuka. And they sometimes even tortured her. Because this was quite a interesting family. Think it like a Juzo from Tokyo Ghoul. And Izuka usually only got past the second round before she had to give up. But one day, when she was around 14, she would awaken her strength in her quirk. She'd suddenly grow her eyes red, and her horns, instead of only being quite behind her ear, they'd go from in front of her shoulder. So, yeah, she ended up winning from that evolution. But she could activate that because she looks better like this. Anyway, Izuka also now getting recognition from their parents because that was the mega arena tournament. It was their biggest one in history, and knowing they didn't have to spend any money, Izuka was praised a lot from their parents, and now got a little attention. Not as much as the older siblings who had won a lot. But they did have one competitor that nearly beat Izuka in the finals. That was a man by the name of Ken Tenkai. And this man was great with spears. And his quirk, obviously, was he had better skills with weapons. So he was amazing with spears. And Izuka came out of the fight with a couple stab wounds from it. Anyway, for a couple years after that, until Izuka was around 18, she'd grown up in a very, very much a chaotic household. And Izuka, once again, when she was 18, was sold into the black market. Because as much as that family liked her around, Izuka was worth a lot on the black market. Because, turns out she saved them millions and millions of dollars. So Izuka was once again bought off the black market for around $200 million this time. Yeah. Anyway. Izuka now went to this family called the Todorokis. It's not as bad as it sounds, guys. Anyway, Izuka, having the same age as we'll say the same age as Dobby, saw a very young Shoto, and she'd usually try and stop the abuse, but Enji would always try and just whap her away. But by this time, Izuka was very good at combat training, and she was actually nearly on the level of Endeavor, so it was a formidable fight all the time. So Rei was actually the one who adopted her and signed the papers. So yeah, she was kind of like the protector. But one day, Endeavor told Shoto, "It's been a week, Shoto. We have to train. You have to be stronger than All Might. After all, that's what you were born for. You are the perfect subject, after all. So come on, Shoto. We have to train." As he starts getting dragged along, as Izuka, who is playing with Toya and the other two, as Toya's like, "Isn't that Dad?" As Izuka looks up like, "I'll be back." As she quickly throws 5 things of wool into the air quickly and jumps off all of them, getting up to the 2nd floor like, "Stop it, Endeavor. You don't have to do this. He can choose what he wants to be. Most hero students don't even train before this. None getting parents like you who hate them." And Todoroki's just like, it's really fine, sis. As Izuka's like, "No, it's not." As Endeavor's like, "Get out of my way, you pest. In the end, I can still beat you. After all, I'm the number 2 hero." As Izuka's like, "That's what you think." As Izuka quickly sweeps his leg and kicks him in the face. And she's like, "For the number 2 hero, you're quite slow with reaction time." And Izuka looked over to Todoroki like, "Are you okay, Shoto?" As Shoto's like, "Yeah, I'm okay, sis. Thank you. I don't want to do training today. Maybe we could sometime, but I don't like doing it with Dad. He hits me. And he hits Mom when she tries to stop." As Izuka's like, Your mother? Right. What happened to her? As Todoroki's like, oh, she poured something on me. As Izuku's like, oh. Do you have any contacts with this woman? As Todoroki's like, well, all I know is that she's in a hospital and Dad put her in there. As Izuku's like, oh, poor woman. As on that night, Izuka was thinking like, okay, I have to start thinking what I want to do. Do I want to be a hero? Not really, honestly. I killed so many people. If people looked at my track record and saw what family I was once adopted to, I could never be a hero. I'd probably be arrested too. As Izuka thinks, it's one place I'd be welcomed. I guess there's hero work. No, there's not. Why? No. I could be a vigilante. I could be a villain. I don't want to, though. I have to save Shoto. As, fast forward around 2 years, Izuka finally got enough education for them to be around middle school level. So one day when Izuka was 26, she finally got got enough education to enter high school. As Todoroki walked up to her like, oh, hey sis, do you have an idea of what college you want to go to? As Izuka's like, no, by college I think you mean high school actually. As Todoroki's like, you're going to go to high school at 26? As Izuka's like, it's better late than never. As Todoroki's like, well, I'm going to UA high school. As Izuka's like, really? As she writes that down as her first choice. And Shiketsu High School is her second. Like, I'll go also. After all, no matter how old you are, I'll still have to protect you. And yeah, she was quite strong actually. She could probably handle Deku at the overhaul arc with around 50%. So yeah, she's quite overpowered. Anyway, they both get through on Todoroki gets through on recommendation. Izuka does not. BRB guy. Okay, guys. New picture. New me. 2 minutes ago. Later, actually. Anyway, so, once she finishes the written portion, barely. She's not that smart, guys. She's really not. Anyway, Izuka aces the entire practical exam. She gets around 98 points. Yeah, she did amazing. With a sheep quirk, I mean amazing because sheep quirk. Bakugo may have gotten around 80 points, but that's with an explosion quirk. She did this with a sheep quirk and a goat quirk, but a sheep quirk still. Anyway, it was more so just a lot of combat training. Anyway, Izuka, the next day when she arrived on UA campus, she got a different letter than Shoto. She was assigned the role of assistant teacher. She'd still be learning a little less than the students, but she'd more so be a lot more built as a hero. Because in UA high school, they have like a 70% for hero, and like 30% of their curriculum is education. She would get 90% hero and 10% education in her curriculum. Curriculum is basically education. Okay. Anyway, so when she arrived in class, she immediately got next. Well, she got on the podium and was like, "Welcome, class. I'm not the teacher, but I'd just like to say my name is Izuka, and I'll be the student teacher assistant for the entirety of this year. And I hope we can be good friends." As Todoroki, who was on assist, is like, "Oh, so Sis is the assistant. That makes a little more sense. She's 26 after all." And a couple minutes later, Izuka is greeted by Uraraka like, "Oh, hello, Izuka," as Ochako springing onto Izuka as she's like, hello? As Ochaka's like, "My name's Ochaku Uraraka. I hope we can be great friends. You're the student teacher, right?" As she talks a lot to her. And yeah. Eventually, Aizawa scoots himself in through the door and says, "You guys have been talking way too long. Izuka, I want to let you know I prefer quiet. Is that understood?" As Izuka's like, "Sir." And yeah. And she shuts them all up. Kind of like, she's nice on the outside, but if you make her mad, devil comes out. Anyway, after everyone, as always, does the the physical exam, Izuka is called up like, "Well, Izuka, I'll have you go last for these because I'd like you to study the technique and all that with me." As Izuka's like, "Understood, sir." As she gets up to the pitch and gets the baseball, and she's like, "I'll go for a massive home run." As she throws the ball back and leans forward and throws it. And as the numbers keep going up, Aizawa was like, "All physical strength?" As when it would about to fall, Izuka would, with an entire thing of wool, make a fist out of it and punch it back up. Ended up going 2,800 meters. And, it's not extremely big, but, it's very, very good. So Aizawa was like, "Well, Izuka, you appear to have gotten second place in the entire class. Basically first place." As Izuka's like, "Yes." And yeah. So after that, after they do all the events, Izuka ended up getting first place, obviously, because physical prowess was very helpful here. And yeah, even bouncier than Mineta. Speed. Anyway, Izuka, being prepared for the next lesson, and as I was like, "What are you doing here, Izuka? There's only one class." As Izuka's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir," as she quickly leaves. The next day, Izuka's waiting there. Like, I wonder what Aizawa Sensei said the substitute would be. As All Might suddenly peers through the doorway as Izuka drops her phone onto the podium, like, "All Might," as she's surprised, like everyone else is. So All Might explains the premises, and yeah. But I'll say she's not gonna participate in the thingamabobber, the hero versus villains assignment, because, as you know, she's more assistant teacher. So she helps teach the students and, train them, which also boosts her quirk. Anyway, Izuka, also like Aizawa, being quite tired. And I mean, I had to say, look how cute this picture is. It's adorable. Anyway, Izuka, not being prepared for the sudden field trip, by Aizawa, was quite surprised. Like, so Aizawa, what are they gonna be doing in the, USJ? And Aizawa was like, well, they'll be doing rescue training, and in all types of different environments. And we actually have Pro Hero 13, and coincidentally, she's a rescue hero. And yeah, so when they eventually all get off the bus and are greeted by 13, Izuka and the entire class go into the USJ as 13 is doing her whole big speech. Kirishima points out, and Izuka at the same time, whoa, even fake villains? This is a pretty cool place. As Aizawa was like, Izuka, is that in the blueprints? As Izuka checks the lesson plan. No, it's not. As Shigaraki peers through the warp gate and is like, heroes. And Izuka, immediately jumping into action, throws a massive ninja star down to maybe go through the portal and, stab him. So this cuts him on the face. Not in the eye like she wanted to, but on the face. Anyway, Izuka and Aizawa immediately jump down there to start fighting, as Aizawa tells 13, protect the students, 13. Me and the assistant here will defeat the villains. And Izuka and Aizawa in tandem tag team on all the villains. And they ace it, obviously, with Izuka's bronze and Aizawa's huge brains. And eventually, when they're faced with Shigaraki, Izuka completely messes him up, basically. He's nearly knocked out when she puts him in capture tape and is like, I got him, Aizawa. As Aizawa was like, thank you. As Shigaraki's like, you think I'm the final boss? Introducing Nomu, as the Nomu is right behind Aizawa, and he starts wailing on him as Izuka suddenly rushes towards him and tries to hit him with as hard as she can with all of her might, but it's not doing anything to her, as she's forced to watch as her teacher is clobbered to near unconsciousness, as Izuka jumps back and floats up into the air. She's like, well, I never thought I'd have to use this on a villain. It's been a while since I've actually used it. As her horns suddenly curve, and they become devil horns, and she's like, the devil's wrath. And as you know, this is the evil side that you don't want to see. And Izuka says, the devil's wrath, as a massive trident made of wool appears behind the Nomu. And as it falls, it suddenly, the wool pops off of it, and it's very hardened 3,000 degree steel. And it all stabs the Nomu. As the Nomu screeches, she yells, burst, as a massive explosion pops out of it. And the heat, instead of 3,000, pop up to 20,000, casually. And Izuka is like, that had to be it. As the Nomu pops the trident massively out of its, the massive trident out of its stomach and throws it at Izuka as she dodges it, like, what is this thing? As Shigaraki says, introducing Nomu, the anti-symbol of peace. As Izuka is amazed at this. Such power, such regeneration, it's completely brain dead. As she quickly jumps down and using a new ability she learned, gets wool on all of her fingers and spreads the ground apart and goes into it. And as she's digging as fast as she can, she's like, what if that brain is a weak spot? As she pops out of the ground and with a massive wool spear stabs it. As the Nomu turns around and the Shigaraki just says, you really think it's that easy? This thing is supposed to defeat All Might, not some lowly assistant teacher. As Izuka is thrown into the water fountain, as the Nomu is about to just start wailing on her like Aizawa, All Might pops through the entrance point and says, who's touching my students? As Shigaraki's like, our final boss is here. As he yells at Nomu to attack, All Might immediately jumps down there. And they, as always, do their fight. And as Izuka sees All Might win and is shocked, like, he actually beat it. I couldn't even land a scratch. As she falls unconscious. As everyone ends up making it out good enough. Good enough. And Izuka and Aizawa are sent to the hospital, but Aizawa obviously has the most injuries. Next to 13 being completely just destroyed. Anyway, yeah. What's it? Okay, so the day after that, Aizawa announces that they will be having the UA Sports Festival in the next week, and for everyone to get prepared, and tells Izuka, so Izuka, you'll be competing in this one. And this will be a test to see how strong you've grown for this first week of school. So, Izuka, are you up to the challenge? As Izuka grabs his hand. Of course I am, Aizawa-sensei. And that's where I'll be leaving off for part 1, guys. I hope this is long. And I hope you like, subscribe, and share with all your 5 friends that you made up in your mind. Anyway, you need to subscribe, or else your cat will teleport away and I'll get him. Anyway, yeah, this is Itaku signing off. You have to subscribe or you die. Bye. You heard.
Do-ba-do-do-do-ba-do. This is the outro music.